I'm just saying, like, I think that us partnering with you has been really beneficial. And no, I did not accidentally mean to leave the meeting after I said that. No, you answered all of our questions. I mean, you really helped us along the way. I like that we compared other companies, and as much as we liked Beam, when I let Zach know I really apologize. We really liked everybody and meeting you. We like the team. We're heading in a different direction, something that is a little more synergistic with Tony's business. He didn't respond to me. And I'm like, well, that kind of turns me off.
Wow.
Because I was kind of surprised because they were all over us. Like we hit it off with them really well. So it's kind of surprised they didn't respond at all. So I guess I really pissed him off. I didn't mean to. I was just doing what I thought was best for us, right?
Well, it's yeah, that's unfortunate that that's how he reacted.
But I'll jump in on that. I'm going to jump in on what she was just saying, though, and I'm not trying to just continue tooting your horn, but she said something 2 or 3 times during the weekend there that where we started looking, and then meeting with you, and you kind of showed doors, but you didn't really push us to anything. Okay. Yeah. You kind of showed doors, and then, she was quick to shut out certain doors that were in the home service area, because she's like, no, this is my area. This is my field. This is my home run. And you were good about cordially kind of still, okay, let's just peer through the door and just take a look at it. And she said, and if you didn't do that, we don't know if we'd be sitting, here right now. So the fact that you were kind of managed to nudge us to just broadly open up our minds and look a little bit more wide angled lens probably helped a lot.
That's really cool. I remember in the consultation, Marsha was like, I can't imagine selling flooring or things like window blinds. Like that would be terrible. And in the intro, I said, you wanted health and wellness. These are the brands that are health and wellness, and we're going to compare, and that's the direction you're probably going to go. But let's just think about the synergistic stacking that goes on with what Tony's business is doing and how you made, and let's look at it from what it means to build a business, not really what the business is, right? Do you remember that? Yeah. And what horsepower brings to the table and the systems and all of that. And then, so kudos to you guys. I mean, you took the coaching in the direction, and you did the work and did the research. And now you're in a really strong position. So that's all I'm looking for, educated buyers.
Well, and one of the things I think that Chris told us today, he's like, you guys are in a good position where down the road, as we keep developing these servicing other service brands, home service brands, you have potential to stack on something else in your space, right? He's like, so you could have, maybe have your granite business, then we have the blinds. And he's like, and maybe there's something else down the road that you add to that, where you still are using the same client base, right? And you're using the power of horsepower. And they're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes that's really cool, where they're building a brand for horsepower. And it's funny because now I can't remember what it was called, but where it's like a one-stop shop, like people will see it nationwide. And then like Bumblebee will be one of those brands within this. Right. But they're building out a specific, and I can't remember what it's called.
I remember. I wrote it down. It's like home or how. Yeah.
And then Howie. It was called Howie.
Howie.
Yeah. But
really? Okay. They're probably going to do a better job. Neighborly is doing the same thing. They acquired, the Dwyer Group got acquired by a big private equity company, and they rebranded it Neighborly. But they didn't build it from the beginning to do this. And so the brands aren't connected like Horsepower is. I bet Horsepower is going to execute on that strategy really well.
Oh, I mean, just the stuff that they were showing us from out of the gate that is really fresh. Like they're just now starting to work on it. But this is their vision, which I think is one of the things that we really like too, is that we can see that they have such a vision as a company, which for us is great, right? Because not that we don't have any vision, but it kind of gets us thinking about where do we go next? Like, let's get this up and running. Let's hope it goes great. And I have every reason to believe it will. And then, the sky's the limit. Then maybe we bring the boys in the mix and they do something.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at is if Bradley comes out of the mill, if he comes out of the Marines, he may stay in the Marines, but if he comes out of the Marines and he wants to do something, I'm, like, maybe you go to college, maybe you just start a franchise and learn how to run a business and, you don't need it, but take certain courses or something, but we'll see. He's not the academic guy that a lot of kids are.
Neither was I.
Yeah. And frankly, I don't think my dad never went to college either. And, he built a huge, manufacturing company. So
The only thing that I would say, that I would, if I had to do it over again is take an accounting course, take an economics course. I know they're both really horribly boring, but what you don't know at 20 and you do know now,
I took all those economics, and even though I'd never finished college, and I don't remember anything.
yeah.
do you know the reason I laugh, Tony, is you're right. My father told me, so I graduated from Indiana Business School, Indiana University, marketing major, management major, right? And my dad says, you're not graduating unless you take cost accounting. Now, cost accounting was the hardest accounting course to take in accounting, which was the hardest major within the business school. And I was like, Dad, I'm not taking cost accounting. It's going to ruin my GPA. It's terrible. He was like, you have to, what do you call it when you don't really take it, but you go to all the classes?
You're talking the wrong group.
Yeah, sorry. You basically attend without paying for the class. So anyway, I did that. I'm sorry.
Like you're shadowing?
Yeah, it's called
Or
something.
something. Okay. I don't know.
But at any rate, he was like, just do that. So I went in, I talked to the professor. I was like, look, my dad's making me do this. And he was like, that is great. He was like, you have to understand how to cost segment. You have to understand, project costing and job costing and whatever. Of course, my family's in the foundry business. So job costing is manufacturing and project costing is construction and what you guys do, right? So hugely helpful. Like most college kids, your dad's an idiot, but my dad is actually pretty smart. So,
Auditing a course.
Huh?
Is that what it's called? Auditing a course?
You got it, Google. Thank you.
Yes,
It's exactly what the word I was looking for. I audited cost accounting. Yep.
that's funny.
I would never have known that.
Yeah, that's what you call it, auditing course.
Yeah,
So-
I bet you that was kind of well, anyway, yeah, I'm sure that's one of those things where you look back and you're still pulling stuff out of it.
Yeah. And I used surprisingly a lot of business school stuff when I was turning the foundry around. Setting up Gantt charts and setting up, do you even know what I'm talking about? Spaghetti, where you track the product through the foundry. We were so crazy inefficient the way that it was when we bought it. And I spent basically 3 years turning this thing around, and we had 25 employees. Many of them were knuckleheads and super difficult to manage. And I did all these projects and everybody's like, what is he doing? What is he doing? Right. And I got down to 11 employees and we produced $150,000 a month with 11, more than what we did with 25. Now we had a recession. We had a really bad economic downturn that helped a little bit, but just the efficiency and like I moved the core room from the back of the house to the front of the house, and so that the product flowed
right.
It just was logical and made sense, right? And so what happened is we didn't have double handling. Everything we picked up was 35 pounds to 75 pounds. Pick it up off the ground, put it in a wheelbarrow, move it, pick it up. I was like, we had these big burly guys at the foundry, right? Big, dirty. And it was awesome. Once it started working, like it was awesome. It was super fun, but it wasn't fun creating it because nobody was happy that I was changing everything. But
if you're bored and you want to get back into that, let me know.
that was a long time ago now. I was 34 when I was doing that.
I'm trying to think of what else we had, covered while we were there. Chris was good over there.
Yeah, everyone was so nice, very welcoming, very helpful, eager to answer questions, trying to make sure we didn't, leave anything uncovered. And just like we've been saying from day one, I think you just don't know what you don't know. So things are going to pop up that maybe you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that? You know, and then all of a sudden you have you're in the midst of it and you have a question, but that's okay. I mean, we'll hash those
What was
out.
the question that I had for Sarah that we had to pull her in for? Oh, I know what it was, about finder's fees and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, referral fees and stuff for your network.
Yeah, you know, because real estate agents are just as greedy as interior designers.
Yeah.
I'd say that quietly in case I have one outside the door.
Yeah.
And, you know, and well, you know, what's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
So,
Which is a bummer. I hate that it's that way.
you know, but it's just the cost of doing business. My bookkeeper gets so worked up when we have to pay out a finder's fee to an interior designer who may or may not have even had anything to do with the project. They just brought it to our doorstep, said, take care of this and put 10% on for me. And my staff gets so bent out of shape over it. And I'm like, guys, you understand, we're not really paying for this. And I'm like, I could care less if they want to put $1 million on it. And I'm like, the customer's paying us and all we're doing is writing a check to them. And yes, we're managing the job and who cares? We manage every job.
Yeah.
You know? And so
You're
I'm
still
like,
getting your payment. They're just getting
yes.
something on top for bringing you a client. I mean,
And they'll be back again, you know, and so, you know, if people get tied into emotional sub-level bullshit, pardon my language, and just look past that.
Yeah, one good advice that I learned early on in my career, and I actually got into a kind of a pissing match argument with the CFO of the last company I worked for before I started doing my own thing. There's two mentalities on salespeople, right? Salespeople are your highest expense in the business because they make the most money, or salespeople are free because every job pays for what you pay them.
right.
Right. And those are, both things are true. Most salespeople are the most expensive employee in the company, but they're also the only revenue producer. So their services are free. Right. And that's just a mentality shift that some people can't get over. And most bookkeepers and accounting people can't get over it. So it's just the way that the view of the world that they have. But I think salespeople are free. And especially if they can increase the average ticket, right? If you're good at increasing your average ticket, I mean, come on. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I never looked at it that way. That's a good point.
Yeah. You say that, Tony, but I mean, I think anybody that you brought on, you're like, I need them to pay for themselves, and they have, and then some.
Yeah.
Right? So,
I just never use the word free.
Yeah. Well, and what I was telling the CFO that I got in a pissing match with, he basically was, you're an overpaid, blah, blah, blah salesperson. I said, yeah, what the heck? His name was Steve. I said, Steve, you think that you pay me a commission for every deal that you see comes across your desk, right? Because he's the CFO. So he was pushing the paperwork through. This is back in my finance days, right? And I said, I think that you're paying me for the 15 deals that didn't get done that I worked just as hard on to get this one done. Right? Different way of looking at it. Salespeople are out there cranking all kinds of transactions that never come to fruition.
Yeah.
That's what you're paying them for.
Can I tell him my exit story when I got fired from Dan?
Yes, those stories are usually good.
So I was doing sales, for 6 years for a fairly large granite company over in Illinois, 75 employees. And when the recession hit, my accounts were all remodelers. So remodelers tend to be recession proof because nobody's buying a house, they're staying in their own house, they remodel their house.
Yeah.
Okay? So to a certain degree. So the track home guys, the group of sales guys that were all track home invested, they were losing their shorts. So I got fired because I wasn't one of the guys. And
can I say one thing? They paid you a salary, they gave you a truck, and they didn't. I'm like, you weren't even a commissioned sales guy. Which
No.
makes no sense. Like,
no, they gave me a flat rate. They're very old fashioned. They gave me a flat rate, and I brought in jobs like Busch Stadium. the entire Busch Stadium. As
Wow.
far as all the granite work and tile work goes. I got that was the year that I asked for an outrageous increase in pay, which was the end of my demise there.
He was the highest paid salary sales guy.
Yeah. So anyway,
He lost his job.
I'm sitting across from my boss at the time, and he knows I'm not somebody who just gets outwardly upset. I cook inside, I plot, I'm methodical. And so he goes, you know, Tony, he goes, 9 times out of 10, the accounts stay with the company that they're doing business with. And as I got my box in my hand, I said, you know, Dan, I go, if I were sitting on that side of the chair or desk, I said, I would not only say the same thing, but I would do my best to believe that were true. And I walked out of his office and I took all the accounts. I changed all my passwords. They were so not savvy at all. I changed my password to my phone remotely. I changed all my passwords to my emails and everything. I had total control over everything that was me. Sent out a blast email telling everybody that, you know, they can contact me and I'll still take care of them. If they spent 2 weeks trying to get me shut down.
Yeah.
That's
how
a
we
great
started our
story. It's
company.
actually
What's
what?
that?
That's ultimately how we started the business.
Yeah.
Right. Like after, I mean, not immediately.
Yeah, I was a little warm.
Yeah. He had something to prove.
Yeah, well, and there's nothing like a little bit of negative motivation to get you going, right? That's why I talk about fear is kind of the same thing as being pissed.
Exactly. I was just thinking that with Marsha, you know, there's something very motivating about fear. You know, as a guy who doesn't want to swim, I'm sure if I were in the situation, I would learn how to swim.
Oh my goodness, Tony, you should have told me that in the consultation. We could have introduced you to British Swim School.
What is British Swim School?
It must be a franchise.
Yeah, it's a franchise, and they teach kids to swim so that every kid knows how to swim, right?
I was a city kid, so we weren't really around, you know, too many.
I was a city kid and I can swim.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, okay, we're really getting off track.
Yeah, we're totally off track. Good story though. I love it. It's actually very similar to my story. The 2008 financial meltdown. Same thing happened, right? I was overpaid, and so they dropped my pay down to next to nothing. On top of that, we weren't funding any loans because, you know, the financial meltdown, everything was falling apart.
Yeah, I kept losing my jobs.
And I looked at my boss and I said, he dropped my pay really, really low, and I was like, I can do anything and make this kind of money. Like, I was super offended, right? So then I kept my mouth shut after that, and then I thanked him. I said, thank you for making it to the point where
you made my decision for me.
Thank you for helping me push me outside of my comfort zone and allowing me to believe that I can go make this money without anybody's help. And guess what happened? First year I made more money than he was complaining about.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, I think that's, you know, this is something, you know, it is out of Marsha's comfort zone. And but you work very well outside your comfort zone, you know. So some people swim in that, other people sink.
That's exactly right. That's fear, right? Fear is either going to get you going or it's going to hold you back. And if you sink, it's because you can't. And that's why, Marsha, all I'm going to talk about is sales for the first 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And then as you build that recurring book, you know, people come back or you get better referrals or whatever, then you start, you know, ratcheting down the hatches in terms of making sure you don't make these mistakes, or what margin can we squeeze out of, you know, this point and that point. And then everything starts working. It's super fun.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
awesome.
excited. I'm excited to get it off the ground, right? Just start having a schedule, getting a plan, feeling like I'm not just like out in la la land figuring out what the hell I'm going to do with myself when I grow up, you know?
Well, you are, you're going to be successful. You're going to work really hard. You're going to follow their process, and you're going to go out to the franchisor for support when you need some help.
Yeah.
That's another thing most franchisees don't do. So, you know, it's going to work. I can't wait for our next call.
I think that it's a good model for me because I'm used to being the only one in St. Louis for my company. And then I've got a support team, right? So when we are
That's true.
doing something new and I'm in a market and I'm in a system or something that's new and I don't know what I'm doing or whatever, and I'm trying to whittle through it, I've got contacts inside. I'll just call them up and be like, hey, jump on a Zoom with me or get on a call with me. Can you look at this and tell me what I need to do? Right? Because I'm always flying solo in St. Louis anyway. So
Oh, that's a good
in
point.
that respect, it's kind of similar, right?
That's awesome. Yeah, it's very similar, and you're gonna thrive in it. So what I was gonna say is I'm excited about our next call, because I call that our congratulations call, but we have to actually become a franchisee first, right?
Yeah.
And then I explained that, I have sort of a post franchisee process, several books that you might have already read, but if you have, good refreshers. If you don't need them, pass them forward, right? But different stages of growth in your business, I hit you with some additional tools very similar to what we've been doing, right? So at any rate, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I love to watch the success of my candidates as they get in, and also some of the frustration, right? Like, we keep an open dialogue in terms of this isn't working well or whatever. And those conversations are just as fun as the ones that we've been having to get you here. So
Yeah, so our next conversation is with Chris, right, hun?
Yeah. Well,
On
no,
the
it's
20
with all of their teams. It's with the whole management team and
Is that on the 22nd?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it was just him. All right.
so that's your onboarding call, 22nd?
The 22nd is the call with the management team and the onboarding team. That's
Okay,
like
so that's probably your sign and pay. Like, this is where you sign the franchise agreement. This is the wiring instructions and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's the fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk on the 23rd, which is that Friday?
Well, that's a Wednesday because
No,
the
22nd is
that's
the
a
Thursday.
Friday. Yeah, we can do that.
22nd's Thursday. I'm looking at a calendar, Marsha. You're probably not. 22nd's a Thursday, and 23rd is a Friday. You want to just connect on the 23rd at the same time?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works. Okay.
Okay.
And also, you were talking about books or whatever. Have you talked books with Brian McRae yet? Because that guy made me read a book a month for 2 years.
I have not. Brian McRae, let me see I don't have him on the calendar. We went back and forth, and
I'll see him Thursday.
yeah, I'm excited to talk to him. Yeah, he is not officially on the calendar. I think we got back and forth on the questionnaire, getting the questionnaire filled out. And I think that's where we ended it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call him when I get off the phone with you and say, just talk to Marsha. She reminded me of that you're a book reader or whatever. And yeah. But there's some really good books out there that will, that are good to read at different phases of your growth. And that's kind of the design of, why I'm sending him and whatever. So
yeah, well, like that traction book that they talk about with horsepower is one of the books that we read.
Yeah, that's one of the books I sent
when I worked with Brian.
Actually, you know what? Horsepower does. I should make a note of that and not send you two of them, because one of them is the E-Myth and the other one is Traction.
Yeah.
So, and what's the other one? The Wealthy Franchisee. That's a great book. It's not a great book because it's talking about how rich you can be. That's not it. It talks about multiple different franchise brands all over the map, franchise brands, and the successful franchisees all kind of, they're just different stories, but you notice that they all kind of do the same things. And that's the whole message in that. Yeah. So wealth is about as much time control as it is cash, right?
Yeah.
And good philosophy to kind of put in your brain. And so.
Okay, I'm interested.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Fantastic. Well, let's talk on the 23rd. We'll have our congratulations call, and then we'll figure out a cadence where, of connection going forward, just like what we've been doing, but bigger gaps of time in between calls.
Sounds good.
Good.
Okay, fantastic, guys.
Yeah.
You have a great week and a good trip, and we'll talk at the end of next week.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Okay, bye, guys.